Welcome back to Real Shit, where we like to talk real shit all day, every day, all for the love of movies. I am Joe. Before I get into it today, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Any little bit of feedback or support would be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, I'm going to get right into it because today I have another article, this time from Esquire magazine. And the title of the article reads, "It sounds like George Lucas liked The Mandalorian a lot more than he did the Disney Star Wars trilogy." So basically what they're doing here is they talk about an interview that was had with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, the producers of The Mandalorian, of course. And they had this interview with a Hollywood Reporter, and they pulled a quote from it. And this is from Dave Filoni himself, and it was talking about his relationship with Lucas and whether or not he takes pointers from Lucas about the direction of The Mandalorian or anything else he does Star Wars related. He says, "Not a tremendous amount. We talk about other stuff. When I talk with him, I like to get more knowledge. He'll give me some reminders, especially before I shoot something, about how many setups I should try to get in one day. I might rack his brain for certain things about how to cover a scene." So basically he's talking to George Lucas about directing. Like, that's what his focus is when he has conversations with him, and that's great. I mean, I think you should do that. George Lucas has been around a long time, and he's someone that you're going to want to pick his brain if you're an aspiring director and you want to get better at that craft. He's definitely someone that you should take advantage of talking to, for sure. He goes on to say he's been very complimentary. I think he enjoyed the show that's talking about The Mandalorian. And he said once that now he gets to watch it as a fan and watch it as a viewer. So basically he's saying that George Lucas is now able to take a step back and have a fan's perspective about Star Wars, which is kind of interesting when you have a creator, someone who invented the whole universe, and he's able to take the time now to just watch it as a viewer. I think that's pretty interesting, to be quite honest. I mean, I think that's not something that many people are able to experience, I don't think, to or even want to experience, because a lot of people, when they create something, they like to hold on to it. I mean, personally, I believe he should have held on to it based on what we got, but nevertheless, he's now watching it as a viewer, so that's kind of cool. My job is to bring that knowledge forward and pass it on, what I've learned from him in everyday discipline, to John and to the creative departments. So basically it's talking about, this is very, I think this honestly, the article is a little bit misleading in my opinion. It doesn't actually say anything about him liking it. He actually says, I think he likes it. He doesn't really, to me that sounds like he doesn't really know, but Esquire, I think, is trying to kind of run with a narrative here about the I guess the state of the Star Wars universe under the Disney banner. And I think they're trying again to give a jolt of life back into this franchise, because I think a lot of fans, including myself, have kind of checked out, to be honest with you. Regardless of how you feel about The Mandalorian, I think a lot of people just aren't as interested in Star Wars as they were in the past. And that's unfortunate. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I mean, if you've ever seen the other set that I do to record these videos, you'll see I have an extensive amount of Star Wars stuff. Most of it from the original trilogy, because those are the best movies, in my personal opinion. And some stuff from the prequels. But it's like, as a fan, like, it's upsetting to me that I'm not interested in Star Wars, but that's not really my fault. That's the studio's fault. So I feel like this is kind of trying to spin that narrative that Star Wars is on its way up, and I see a lot of people try to spin that narrative, to be honest, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I've said my feelings on The Mandalorian many times. I think, yes, it was better than what we got in the movies, but at the same time, that's not really saying much. And I think the fact that people just kind of latched onto it because they were just looking for anything Star Wars related that was halfway decent at that point, and I think that's what they did. They latched on to The Mandalorian. I'm not even saying it's terrible. I just don't think it's as good as everyone makes it out to be. Everyone made it out to be like the savior of the Star Wars universe, and I just don't see that. I think it's still missing that charm that you get with typical Star Wars. It's missing that George Lucas flair, to be quite honest. The whole idea of just him being so in on the details and being able to create this world that he has created over the past 40 some years. I mean, it's pretty impressive all the stuff he came up with in his mind. So to take him out of it and then try to plant someone else in his place and try to do the same thing, try to invent things. We've already seen when they try to invent things that it doesn't exactly resonate with the fan base, and we've also seen them try to steal from George Lucas and just try to pass it off as something new. So that's where Disney Star Wars has gone with it. They've either tried to replicate George Lucas or they've just shit all over what he's done before them. Now it goes on to talk about the memoir that was released. I think it was last year. It was a little while ago, but it basically was. It basically gave George Lucas's opinions on the sequel trilogy, and he definitely had things to say about it that were unflattering, to be quite honest. And I'm not really surprised that that's the way he feels. So we go to Bob Iger's memoir, and this is basically where they're getting the idea that he didn't like the sequel trilogy, according to them. So in Bob Iger's memoir, he wrote that Lucas felt betrayed by the direction of the sequel trilogy and the direction of Star Wars in general, adding that they lacked originality, which is something that I feel as well. In a meeting with Lucas, Iger wrote, George immediately got upset as they began to describe the plot, and it dawned on him that we weren't using one of the stories he submitted during the negotiations. So it's very clear to me that George Lucas was kind of jaded by Disney and the deal after the fact, because he gave them the story treatments. He gave them everything they needed probably for a successful trilogy outside of him actually being directly involved with making it. Like, all they had to do was take his material and translate it and use him as like a producer or some kind of advisor, and they probably would have been in better shape than they are right now, to be quite honest. So he obviously felt jaded by them not using his stories, and that's clear. I don't know if that was part of the agreement with them buying it, but I have a feeling that George Lucas felt like it was. And to me, the minute that he showed his disapproval for what you were doing, the minute that he kind of had that feeling in the boardroom that George Lucas wasn't happy, I think as a company you should look at that and be like, maybe we're not doing the right thing, maybe we're not taking this franchise in the correct direction. So basically what Esquire is trying to do here is they're bringing up the memoir because they want to show that George Lucas was not happy with the sequel trilogy, like most of us were, but then they're also bringing up this small excerpt from a Dave Filoni interview where they're trying to portray that Star Wars is on the right path and that George Lucas is on board with it. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that based off of what I read there. It sounds to me like they're taking this tiny little line and trying to turn it into something it's not. They're trying to use George Lucas now to get the fans back. They're like, see, George likes it, so you have to like it as well. Or you should like it. Give it a chance. I mean, I gave it a chance. I honestly went into The Mandalorian with a clear conscience. I was pretty disconnected from Star Wars, but I'm like, what do I have to lose at this point? And I watched it, and some of it was okay. Most of it was forgettable to me. It was a lot of filler, to be quite honest. That's what the show felt like to me. And it felt gimmicky. It brings up the photo of George Lucas and Baby Yoda that Jon Favreau took, and they use that almost as a sign of hope, like him embracing the new generation or whatever you want to call it. To me, Baby Yoda is a gimmick. Like, that's how I took him. I don't know that they necessarily intended for him to be as popular as he did, but once he did become popular, I think they rode that wave, and that was another reason that The Mandalorian was so well regarded, because I think people just saw Baby Yoda and they latched on to that character for whatever reason. I don't really know why, other than the fact that he's cute, I guess. But other than that, like, to me, it's not a very pivotal character. It's not really anything. It's not like they created something new for us to latch on to. It's just Yoda, but it's not Yoda, but his species, but in baby form. I mean, it's not exactly like they're leaps and bounds like trying something new with the franchise. It's going back to what George did and bringing it to modern day and trying to put your own spin on it. But that's just, I mean, that's how I feel about it. I think, again, it's very important, in my personal opinion, that George Lucas is involved with Star Wars. As long as George Lucas is not involved with Star Wars, and I'm not talking about them talking on the phone with him. I'm talking about in a producer role, or whatever the case may be, a direct consultant, where he oversees the content of each movie or each television show. Then I might regain some confidence in Star Wars. But until that happens, I probably won't, to be honest. And to me, this is just Esquire, again, trying to spin a narrative, trying to convince people that Star Wars is back, or that Star Wars is coming back, and that it's going to restore everything that we lost with the sequel trilogy. And I just don't believe that. I'm not in the boat where I believe that. And now we have more movies coming too. It was just announced not that long ago that there's 3 more movies coming. I don't know if it's a trilogy. I don't know if they're individuals. But they have taken some time, I guess, to regroup. And they think, I guess they have at least 3 stories that they think is, you know, going to push the franchise in the right direction. I don't necessarily know that that's possible. I'll tell you one thing, hopefully, for their sake, if they really do want to take this seriously and try to regain the fans back, I hope they have a plan for those 3 movies and they're not just winging it through each one like they did with the sequel trilogy with no plan. I mean, I really hope that they have some well thought out ideas, and that I hope maybe George Lucas was involved, and maybe some of that faith will be restored. But I doubt it, to be quite honest with you. I think if George Lucas wanted to be involved with Star Wars, he would have never sold it. That's just how I feel. This is all my thoughts on this Esquire article. I think it's just trying to manipulate people, to be quite honest with you. That's just my personal thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching, and peace out.